Yeah, Jason. Yeah, Jason. I do have to recuse myself from certain conversations because, you know what? I can't get caught dry snitching
Mm-hmm.
on nobody. But that being said, speaking of dry snitching, we're gonna talk about Arizona this morning, where dope dads and marijuana mamas in the great state of Arizona can rest a little bit easier this morning. You know why? Because the Arizona Department of Child Safety had a recent announcement, and they said that they'll soon end its practice of investigating reports of cannabis exposure in newborns, as long as there are no other allegations of risk to the child. The shift in policy is scheduled for next month and comes in the wake of a state court of appeals ruling that found Arizona's medical cannabis law protects such use because the patient is under a doctor's care. The state Supreme Court declined to review that decision, effectively making the appeals ruling the new legal standard. Let's give it up for Arizona parents responsibly consuming and still taking care of their families. How about a round of applause for that?
A round of applause. There we go.
Yes. A huge load off of all their backs moving forward. And Catherine Patak, the general counsel for the state's child welfare agency, DCS, says that the organization believes under Rigel, we do not have the authority to investigate prenatal exposure. The Rigel she was referring to was a case involving a pregnant woman who was using medicinal cannabis to ease the effects of hypermesis gravidarum, a condition that causes severe nausea and vomiting during pregnancy. Lindsay Rigel, a former DCS worker herself, was told in her hospital bed after delivery that her infant son had tested positive for THC and that the case would be opened against her. She didn't lose custody of the child, but DCS told her that she'd be placed on the Arizona Central Registry, a list identifying people deemed as a threat to vulnerable populations, including children and elderly. Per the article, placement on the registry lasts 25 years and it can limit employment options. Rigel fought the listing, and more than 3 years after the son's birth, she won. Attack said, given the court ruling, the agency under new Governor Katie Hobbs was obliged to follow the law. She also said the agency gets between 350 and 400 reports of substance-exposed newborns every month, and about 60% of those involve marijuana. Very few of those reports result in the child actually being removed from his home, but it's still about 4% that have been moved because of marijuana exposure. So as a dope dad myself, and quite frankly, the dopest dad on the street, period, it's good to see more states moving towards protecting parents from abuse allegations tied to cannabis consumption. I wish they would have taken a step further to include all consumers and not just those with a medical card, like the state of California has recently, last year. But it is at least a step in the right direction. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad in the street for High at Night News. Getting things started on a high note today. What's the rest of the team think about this one?
Man, this is great news.
You know I love this.
This might be the only time that I've been able to witness that Katie Hobbs has followed the law.
Bravo. Listen, it was absolutely ridiculous that they were putting people on a pedophile list because they consumed cannabis. Yeah. Are you kidding me right now? That is such a misrepresentation and a waste of resources that, I mean, I applaud AZ on this. Way to go. Way to really step up and make it to where people aren't dealing with these kind of issues anymore. And I agree with you, Rico. I think it has to go a step further and be not just medicinal. It should be any cannabis use, because we don't know how the cannabis was consumed. It could have been consumed with edibles. So, and there's been no studies and no research that definitively states that edible use during pregnancy causes some type of harm to the fetus. So, of course, we can all agree that smoking anything while pregnant is not the best things to do. It would be unhealthy, in my opinion. However, just because somebody has cannabis in their system and a newborn tests positive for it as well, does not mean that person deserves to be on a list with rapists and pedophiles and people who harm elderly people and this other thing too, that really debilitates them to integrate and be a member of their community. I'm glad AZ did this. Once again, bravo.
And at the same time, Luke, it really diminishes the charges that those people have actually faced when they're conflated with something as minor as cannabis in the system.
Yeah,
they did studies in Jamaica in the 1980s.
Yep.
Melanie Dreyer did that, and they followed these kids sequentially. They all met their milestones, and they went on to now be adults without any. And these people were consuming cannabis all day long. And in a medical sense, when you have hyperemesis gravitorum, which is the word you stumbled with there, Rico, and you puke your guts out because you're pregnant, okay. The medicines they give you have all sorts of side effects. Smoking weed and titrating until you're not sick anymore has no medical evidence of harm to the fetus. To throw them into this kind of a trap, it's just beating up a pregnant woman. I mean, it's as bad as that woman out of Texas who they wouldn't let have an abortion. This is the kind of shit where we don't need anybody else involved with a woman's reproductive system other than her and her doctor. Get the fuck out of the lab. I've had daughters have to deal with this when they were pregnant. It scares the shit out of you. Now, we do family law in our firm now, and it's like, you want to raise that bitch? Let's have a battle, okay? Because it makes no difference if I smoke weed or if I drink scotch or whatever. Okay, fuck you. We're going to have a war now because I'm a dad who had, custody of children, and this is not funny. This is a mess. CPS showed up at my door because my kid was smoking weed. They caught him with weed off the campus, so I got CPS at my fucking door. Like, why? He's a teenager smoking weed. Okay, so what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like the first time you've seen that happen.
Yeah.
No, you used to pinch my weed all the time, the little shits.
That's right.
I think it's also really important as the woman on the panel to explain to you guys that the diagnosis that she was treating is deadly. It actually could kill her. It is very painful. It's very dangerous for the baby. And as somebody who has also had a number of pregnancies myself and dealt with all the symptomology that goes with it, it is a physical ailment on your body when you're going through pregnancy. Everything hurts. You don't feel good. Your feet to the top of your head hurts. Your hips hurt because they're literally being pushed apart. Like, imagine your bones from the inside being stretched, okay? Like, you guys can't even imagine what that feels like.
Right. And I thought that's why they called it woman power.
Then you add on top of that, like, extreme nausea, okay? My physician actually prescribed me bed rest for 3 months because I lost so much weight in my first pregnancy that I was sick and couldn't keep anything down, and prescribed me Zofran, which now is known to cause major birth defects, and lawyers help families get restoration for prescribing that. Okay? Weed, there actually has been lots of studies, just not anything that has been allowed to be put public and taken to a medical physician and said, this is now what you need to be believing, right? There has been plenty of studies, and there's been plenty of anecdotal studies going on for mothers and midwives for generations, thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
So
it doesn't fit the narrative.
Argument, there's no research.
Shout out
and also, don't prescribe me something that could potentially harm my baby and then come and tell me that I can't use a plant to help myself.
That's a really good point, Mandy. That is a really, really, really good point, because they give moms a lot of different pharmaceutical drugs when giving birth and throughout the pregnancy.
Yeah, I was prescribed 3 different bottles of pills and sent home.
See what I'm saying?
Women have been using this substance for thousands of years. Hell, they found it in a tomb of a woman who died of cephalopelvic disproportion in the 1 AD. I mean, they were smoking hash to get women to start going into labor. They were using this for nausea because, you know what? It fucking works for nausea. I mean, let's not be. Yeah. And for thousands of years, you can't say, oh, we had a kid with little, their hands attached to their shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Thalidomide.
Yeah,
What are we gonna do? It fucked up.
My wife is actually watching this. My wife is actually watching the show.
That's really important in this article, like this is a total dovetail off of the article that has nothing to do with the story, so I apologize, Rico, but I'm just really passionate about this topic. And the fact is that we sit here as a society and accept that over 90% of births in the US are a result of an epidural, which is like a fucking 24-something inch needle, or I don't know exactly how many inches, but it's hella long. And they shove that up your spine, and you're paralyzed from the waist down for hours. Right. They don't allow you to try to get up and walk after you have a baby with an epidural. This is incredibly dangerous. It's going in your spine. When you could actually use cannabis during labor and delivery to manage pain, to manage anxiety. There's so many methods that this plant could be helping people during labor and delivery and should be used by every mother. I don't give a fuck what your symptom is. It would.
What I said. So my wife actually tapped in.
Than what our current practices are right now.
Yeah, my wife actually tapped in, and she's watching the show today, and she said that she reminded me that we actually used it when she was giving birth to my daughter, too, because the stuff that they were given wasn't. We did not want to go heavy on the narcotics, and it actually helped with our natural childbirth that we went through as well. So. Another use case directly from somebody within the system too.
This is also why a lot of moms are starting to opt out towards midwives and home births, because they're sick and tired of people making them feel like they're bad mothers because they're refusing pills and injections and all of this in the hospital room. It's messed up. What people do to new moms in the hospital, it's disgusting. I had a nurse actually scold me because I was trying to nurse my baby for the first time, and she insisted that he wasn't getting enough nourishment and tried to make me feel like I was starving my kid and kept trying to make me feed him formula. What that does to a new mom, that's just... Anyway,
the government needs to stay out of our doctors. What did Mitt Romney say, Jason? Your boy Mitt Romney. The government needs to stay.
All corporations are people.
The doctor's office is way too small to have the woman's doctor, and the government to be in there at the same time.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. What's the matter with that saying, Rico?
I was quoting it. Yeah, it's your boy Mitt Romney. Okay. I didn't think nothing was wrong with Mitt Romney.
I didn't realize Mitt Romney was my guy. He's kind of a rhino, but nonetheless, you know what I mean.
I took the bait.
Yeah, baby. You know what it is. You know what it is. You know what it is.